and welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts, where today we have this lovely member of the carrot family. And boy did it take a long time to get to this one. You see, this plant can only be grown certain times of the year in Zone 8A, otherwise it just bolts and falls apart. And guess what? It's cool season time, and so here we are with a lovely bunch of specimens to talk about. Now, the scientific name for this plant is Coriandrum sativum, or as commonly known, cilantro. That's right, folks, this is the magical herb that brings together those dishes like chilies and Tex-Mex and a bunch of other things. I mean, it's common in a lot of dishes and a lot of ethnic cultural dishes. And it's not an herb you should underestimate or dismiss, because it is interesting. It is considered an annual, though technically it's really a sort of a short-lived biennial. And we already covered biennials in a prior episode. So, in case you missed that, a biennial is a plant that produces foliage one year and then produces a flower and then dies after producing seed in the next. Now, that year could be two different seasons over 2 different years, or there's a number of different permutations of what the definition of a biennial is, and plants don't exactly read the book. So, ambiguous gray area. But anyway, Coriander, aka cilantro, is native to southern Europe and the western Mediterranean. It is considered and grown as an annual, and you can grow it in zones 3 through 8, though I'm going to have a proviso on that now, just for note. In Zone 8, it is grown almost exclusively as an annual. Typically what you will do is you'll buy the seed because it's hella inexpensive, and you'll sow the seed about now, in September, or late August, early September. You'll let it come up, you'll grow it in partial shade, so that it doesn't get that hot afternoon sun. You'll keep it moist, you'll give it the best soil you can, and it'll grow, and hopefully, ideally we won't have a heat moment, and it won't bolt. But what it will do is it'll go through the winter. Cilantro is one of the few plants I've ever seen that is considered an annual that can freeze solid and survive. I've grown them in shallow bowl planters on my front porch, and amazed that they've been frozen absolutely solid, and then once a little thaw happens, they're just fine. They're like pansies in that regard. They're tougher than you'd imagine. People dismiss them because they look at the foliage and go, "Oh, this can't handle anything." You are so wrong. They have survived freezes that lettuce has not survived. So do not underestimate your cilantro. But anyway, it prefers a soil pH of 6.5 roughly. That's give or take a range. So basic garden potting soil or slightly acid garden soil should be fine. Its exposure, again, I point out it does best in Zone 8A in a partial sun exposure where it doesn't get blasted by afternoon sun. Though, in colder climates further north, it can take more sun. So it's more of a full sun thing when you get up near New Jersey. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, its height can be about 20 inches, and its width can be anywhere from 10 to 20 inches also. You notice a trend in the Apiaceae family, which, by the way, it belongs to the same family as carrots, parsley, all that. Apiaceae, which used to be called the Umbrelliferaceae family way back when I started this horticultural odyssey, and then they changed it. Why? Dunno. Agronomists. Am I right? Anyway, so, based on that height and spread, you could roughly say that it's got a cylindrical spread. Maybe 10 inches on either side would be, 5 to 10 inches on either side for its spread would be appropriate. However, this plant can be grown in clusters, and then you can harvest en masse. Now, there's one thing about the harvesting you shouldn't do. Once they go to bolt, the main stems get a bit fibrous and gross, and so you don't want them once they bolted, but you can still harvest the side leaves. And cilantro freezes really nicely, so keep that in mind. Little cilantro flavor bombs for the summer. Oh yeah. Anyway, other names for this plant, and I may be mangling this one, Dania and Chinese parsley. However, Chinese parsley comes with a proviso. You see, Chinese parsley can also be Heliotropum curassavicum, also known as salt heliotrope. A totally unrelated plant whose edibility I could not find, so I have no idea if you can eat it or not. I don't know if it's used for anything other than a area where salt is, where, you know, coastal areas where salt spray is a problem. That's all I know. Sorry, guys. Now, also, Cilantro, Culantro, Cilantro. Cilantro. It sounds fancy as hell, doesn't it? Anyway, Cilantro is Eringum foetidum. Okay, fully edible. It's that weird sawtooth oval leaf cilantro substitute that you see sometimes in the ethnic section. It's like cilantro, but not. Now, what's interesting is Erinaceum is the sea holly family. Now, sea hollies are these beautiful old-timey flowers that sort of are dry. They don't technically have petals, they have bracts, and usually the ones I've seen have a metallic bluish cast to them. They're very fascinating. In the test gardens, I happen to have a agave-leaved sea holly. It has not bloomed yet, but I'm waiting for that. Anyway, the second name on that is foetidum, means, well, it smells bad. Someone thought it smelled bad. I mean, this is not a surprise. Nasturtium means nose twister, referring to the pungent aroma that happens when you crush the foliage. So we do name things after scent in this business, and that's just the way things go. Now, I should point out, coriander is the seed of the plant. The seed of the plant here. Cilantro is the foliage. They come from the same plant. So if anybody says no, they come from different plants, tell them they're a yo-yo. I would use more strong words, but trying to keep for the public, educational status of this video. Now, moving along, coriander is received by most as having a tart lemon lime flavor and or scent. But about a fourth of the people who encounter it only smell and taste a sort of soapy scent / flavor. This is due to a gene that detects certain aldehydes used typically as odorants in soap, and so, of course, that gene overwrites the scent. That gene overwrites your ability to detect the lemony flavor, and instead you detect the aldehyde type stuff. It's sort of like how a certain amount of people, when they eat asparagus, when they pee, it doesn't stink, because they have a gene that allows them to metabolize out the compound that makes your urine stink. It's interesting how this works out and plays out in people. There are certain people who have this effect going on for other herbs too. Some people think orange mint smells like mint with an orange inflection, and other people think it smells and tastes just like soap. So this is an interesting gene expression of taste and scent. And considering our current predicament with the pandemic, taste and scent is becoming more valuable than it ever was. Anyway, here's an interesting fact. The roots of cilantro have a deeper, more intense flavor than the entire rest of the plant, including the seeds. I didn't know until I did the study for this that you could actually eat the root. I mean, obviously you wash it, but these plants also form a semi-taproot like every other member of the family just about. I mean, I did an earlier video showing how big the taproot on a fennel is, and just imagine, these guys have a little taproot, and you can harvest it and you can eat it, and supposedly it's mind-blowingly intense. I don't know if I want to kill any of my cilantro plants for that, but it's a thought that y'all can consider when you're growing your own cilantro, or cheap plug alert, getting these from me at the market. Wah, wah. But anyway, now, here's some nutritional information, because who knew coriander / cilantro had nutrition? The leaves are 92% water, 4% carbohydrates, 2% protein, and 1% fat. And they have the same, give or take, a bevy of the same, vitamins and nutritional factors as other members of their family. So, coriander is actually very useful. Now, I'm going to say this. I've already told you how to grow cilantro / coriander. I'm going to point out one thing. This plant is subject to swallowtail butterfly larvae just like the others. It's probably the chief weakness of this plant is that it is more susceptible to physical damage scarring. So you have to be kind of delicate with these plants. Make sure your pets aren't deciding to use them as a toilet. And also, make sure not to bruise them too bad when harvesting, which I would highly recommend a pair of sharp scissors or garden snips. If you're going to harvest them, put them on the bottom, and put them on the top of your harvest basket, and keep them refrigerated until you're ready to use them. They're not going to bruise in the refrigerator. They're not going to get sunk in wet, things like cucumbers might. They can keep in the refrigerator in a Ziploc bag with some added moisture for about a week before maybe two, before they start to go gross and soggy. If you're going to store for long term, freeze it. Absolutely, they will survive freezing well. You just pack them into like in my case, a recycled till empty jar or some other kind of Ziploc, some other kind of like Gladware, and they'll store for up to 3 years without any loss of flavor or pungency. And that's about all I have for you today regarding cilantro, and hopefully this video was informative and useful to you. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and as always folks, keep them growing. Thanks for watching.